We've done enough marching and enough leading, even up to prior to the election. And you didn't listen, okay? We tried to tell you, we tried to warn you about what was coming. You didn't listen. So for us not to be there was it was a signal to you all to say, once again, you ain't listening. So all of this that we've done, all of the heavy towing that we've done up till now, hey, y'all got it. You got it this time.
Hey, family, welcome to another episode of the Black Man's Roundtable. I am your host, Rodney Butler, and today we have one of our post-election, post-inauguration, post specials that we do, and we know that you love based on the feedback that we get from when we do these episodes with the three co-hosts, myself included, of the Black Man's Roundtable franchise. Today we have the co-host of the Roundup with Rodney and Rodney. We have Rodney J. Littles. We also have the Local Lookout with Rodney and Bobby with Bobby Fryer. So look, we have a lot of things to catch up on. That's why we do these special episodes. We're going to try to do them more often because of the feedback and the requests that we get from you guys wanting to hear directly from us. But hey, we all have kind of busy lives. You can imagine that all three of us are heavily engaged in the community, heavily engaged into, the different things that different organizations and different things that we do in life. But otherwise, without further ado, we're going to go ahead on and get this episode started. We're going to have about 4 to 6 topics if we can get to them all, because we can go in it when we do these specials. So without further ado, we are going to start with my man Bobby with the first topic that we're going to discuss and opine on. Bobby, start us out, brother.
Hey, listen, welcome everyone. First topic I wanted to talk about was regarding Social Security and how it pertains to at times when politicians make these certain promises that they're going to do. And it sounds good at first and, it gets you all hyped up and it doesn't apply to us because I didn't vote for the felon. But one of the things he's trying to do now regarding Social Security is to take taxes away from Social Security. And these are one of these things, again, it sounds good in the beginning, it sounds good up front. But when you start digging into the details and you realize, hey, man, that's a no-go. So just briefly, so people understand, Social Security is scheduled to run out of funding from the reserves, I should say, by 2034, 2035. All right. So when you start doing the math, we're at 10 years or less of Social Security reserves running out. It doesn't mean it'll be depleted of all funding, but the reserves will run out. So that reserves is pretty much money that's sitting in a trust fund. All right. So you've got the taxes from your payroll taxes that go into your Social Security funding. You've got the revenue coming in from also from higher income individuals that go in there as well. So you got payroll taxes, you got that. And what is the last thing? I'm drawing a blank here for a second. But at any rate, that's how Social Security is funded. And I'll think of that in just a minute. It's how it's funded. And those that money goes into Social Security. So when you start taking away from what actually goes in to fund it, well, what are you replacing it with? All right. It's not going to be tariffs. OK, so when you think about the funding aspect of it and what is being affected by it, when you take those things away, people say, I could take home more money. But now what you're doing is you're increasing the date. You're fast forwarding the date instead of from 10 years to less than that. All right. If you don't do something about it right now. So these type of things, they sound good on the surface when they first come out to some people. But again, some don't dig into the details and realize what you're asking, Social Security to do. And what are you going to replace it with? You're not asking about what revenue streams are you going to put in there to replace that? So that's one of the things that I wanted to first hit off and talk about. Again, I'm going to think of that third one in just a second, just drawing a blank. But, that's one of the things we start thinking about. And, when voters go to vote, someone like myself, you may not be thinking about Social Security right offhand, but your parents, your grandparents. And then when I start doing the math, realizing, hey man, 10 years from now, that's something I need to be paying attention to. So it's one of those things that if you don't dig into the details and read about these things and kind of educate yourselves on how it's funded and what happens, it's one of those things that people don't realize. Like, it sounds good in theory, but it's not really practical.
Got it. Yeah. And Bobby, you were you said was a third thing you were looking for. What?
Yeah, there's a third revenue source. I just
Oh, you talking about for Social Security?
For Social Security,
Which,
yeah.
which two did you name? I was
Payroll, funding from high income earners. All right, and I'm just trying to remember what the third one was. It's on the top of my head.
Capital gains. Is that what you?
Oh, you know what? I'm
not citizens. Non-citizens.
No. I'm tripping. It's actually the interest that's earned off of the bonds. Okay, in the trust fund.
Okay.
That's
in the trust fund. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the third thing, right? So that was the third one, and again, I just drew a blank.
Yeah, I'm glad
Gotcha.
I'm glad you started out talking about that particular subject because a lot of people, it affects Social Security. Of course, is the biggest concern in the country that people have. It's the largest group because it is the largest source of single income. Of a singular income, in America. So I'm really glad that you started out with that one. But people actually believe because it's so big, because it affects so many people, that there's no way they're going to touch Social Security. And no. What people got to understand is this administration is look, the media has done the very best they can to normalize this administration. And so therefore, people need to understand, though, that these are not normal times. This is not a normal administration. Donald Trump, what do you care about your constituents reelecting you when you are making moves for there to be no other, at least free and fair election when we're talking about the office of the presidency in the future? So people got to understand that, no, you're not safe. There's no safety in numbers in the situation of Social Security and some of the other, different kinds of money, streams out there. There's not safety in numbers. So I'm glad you talked about that, Bobby.
Think about this real quick. I'm sorry, right? I'm gonna want you to chime in here. Think about this real quick. The government spends, if you're talking about actually dealing with, as they've tried to term, wasteful spending, right? Mm-hmm. Let's think about what the government spends the most money on. All right, the interest on the debt is the number one thing we spend government funding on, right? Number two is defense spending. Okay, so if you notice, Republicans never want to talk about reducing defense spending at all, right? Yep. So after that, what are you talking about? We're talking about Social Security. Yep. We're talking about Medicaid, Medicare. We're talking about those. So if you're not addressing those things as far as where your cuts coming from, right? And then we always get into this minutia of all this other stuff. Oh, we can do this, we can do that, but we never talk about. Well, we talk about it, but it's never anything talked about raising taxes on the highest 1%, the highest wage earners in the country, right? So we get distracted with all this other stuff, and people buy into this sentiment of, oh, look, they're taking care of all this wasteful spending. Hey, look. If you raise taxes on the top 1%, they're going to be fine. I can assure you. They'll still have their private jets. They'll still have their nice cars. They'll still be able to get them serviced. They're not going to foreclose on their homes. All right. None of that stuff happens. But people have gotten into this belief that somehow if you do that, suddenly, I think what they think is I'm going to lose my job. Somehow I'm not going to make the money I make anymore. I got to look out for me. So no, we can't ask the super wealthy to pay any more in taxes than what they're already doing.
Exactly.
Well, you hit a nail on the head right there, bro, with that. One of the things that has happened over time is that they borrow money. Government has borrowed money from the trust fund.
Yep.
The Social Security Trust Fund, and they haven't paid it back.
That's right.
We wouldn't be facing this situation if that money gets paid back. And quite frankly, pretty much hit the nail on the head that if they just paid their fair share, we could lift a lot of people out of poverty. we could restore the middle class just by them paying their fair share, according to the economists that I've read.
Mm-hmm.
You follow?
Mm-hmm.
So it's they finally, I think, got it through to people that it's an entitlement. People paid into this fund. This is not appropriated tax dollars, you know. And we take home less now simply because I can't remember which period of time or which president did this, but I think it was Reagan, if I'm not mistaken. He added an income tax to Social Security payments as they come out of the fund to you. But that salary that generated the original payment, you already paid income tax on. So it's a double taxation.
Mm-hmm.
So seniors are getting less than they should be getting because of that. In addition to that, the middle class got wiped out by that big tax cut and change in the tax rate. Okay, that happened again during the Reagan administration.
Yep.
And all you gotta do is look at the history and the numbers. Numbers don't lie. Okay, and the facts are that that's what happened to the middle class. And we haven't kept up with the cost of living, living wage, none of that. But you hit on a bigger note as it relates to Social Security when you talk about cuts. Is you're right. They're talking about $800 billion they can need to cut, but they want to take it out of Medicaid, which is a tax supported program for those who are indigent, can't afford medical coverage. But Medicare, we pay into that. So, it's all about, like you said, Bobby, it's about taking care of the top 1%. That's what this is about. And then they should be looking at other areas, particularly agencies that they can't get an audit report on year after year. They can't audit it year after year. They need to take a look at that. And maybe some of that NASA money that's going to, this top political activists. That's billions of dollars. I don't know, that could be a savings, I would think, somewhere in there. But the bottom line is, you're right. They're coming after the folks who can least afford these types of hits the most.
And we know the ultimate result is for what? So they can do another tax break for the super wealthy. And people actually believe they're eliminating government waste. No, they're not. We're not even talking about the amount of money we're spending on him to go play golf. We're not talking about the amount of money that we wasted chasing after a false claim of the election being stolen in 2020. How much money was wasted then?
And with all of these so-called cuts and everything that Doge, whatever you want to call it, DOGE, has so-called made, you have not seen these guys come out with a legitimate savings, if you will, right?
Right.
By so-called cutting people's jobs. So it's all just a farce. But I'm going to continue on this theme, I believe, tonight, because I believe I'm going to be able to apply this theme with just about every single thing we talk about tonight, gentlemen. And I'll go ahead on and start with the first topic, which is that when you have gotten, America is sick. America is very, very sick right now. It's got a combination of pneumonia, COVID, the flu, and everything, right? And when you have a country where nobody cares until it hits them,
right,
then you are able to systematically cut everything. You know what I'm saying? This is how fascism starts, right? So so if you've convinced the young people, right? If you convince the Generation X, okay, my generation, your generation, Bob, if you convince us that we're never going to really see Social Security, definitely the millennials, they don't believe there's no retirement, there's no Social Security. So if you've convinced them of that, even though this is not some entitlement program, you pay into this stuff, right? So
Right.
how can something you pay into just go away, right?
Right.
If all you got to do is just change how, Social Security was initially, I think, built to for one working adult to take care of one elderly adult, right? And then things started to change, and then it took 3 working adults or whatever to take care of one, so forth and so on, right? Because you're sitting there and your inflation is going up, but people wages are. I'm not going to get into the semantics of why it started out with one person taking care of one person, a young person taking care of an older person, and then it take 3 people, 3 working adults to take care of one older person. I don't have to tell you guys, and I know the followers of the round table can do the math and understand that is because, not because they gave older people so much stuff. It's just that your wages pay was stagnant. And so, but the cost of living kind of goes up. And so now it takes 3 to take care of one. Now, but with all that being said, okay, without breaking down the math and all that kind of stuff, right? But if you've convinced a couple of generations, okay, that they're never going to see this, guess what? They're not concerned about, well, he's cutting Social Security. It's like,
Right.
well, I'm not going to see it anyway. If you got a country where if it doesn't apply to me, I don't care. Then, gentlemen, this is where we are. I want to start with that thing because I think no matter what we talk about tonight, I think I will be able to go back to that, and I'm going to go back to that because I want that to be the one thing that people take from me from this particular podcast is that we are a sick nation, and right now we only, and when I say we, I'm not talking about everybody, but we only tend to care about ourselves and what is happening to us, and it makes it so much easier for these oligarchs, these criminals, to basically just strip every single dime out of the coffers of America, and by the time they get to you, there's nobody left. You see? It's like, oh, well, this apply to me now. But guess what? It's only 300 of y'all, man. Anyway, it's too late. So, but anyway, Rodney, you want to hit up because we can hit this Social Security all night.
Before we leave the Social Security,
okay,
this ties to the budget, is what he's talking about. The Senator Schumer vote to get the 9 Democrats to pass the reconciliation budget guidelines. A lot of folks were upset with him, particularly, the rank and file. Most of them were very pissed off with him about that. I think he was in a tough situation. He was darned if he did and darned if he didn't. And I think based upon what we're seeing now, after that budget discussion and vote, I think it was the right decision. Why? Because if they're trying to do this stuff while the process is going on, imagine what would happen if the government had closed down.
Right.
Some stuff would have never reopened. So, and it was a tough call. But in retrospect, looking at what happened since then, I don't think he could have made any other decision. That's my feeling. Now,
they do a poor job of explaining it. No. They just do a poor job of explaining it.
Right.
You gave a more succinct explanation than what we hear back in return, or if people even paying attention. That happens too. So, yeah.
Yep. Now, could he have gotten a little bit more for his yes? Maybe. I think, I got to agree with that. But I think the devastation would have been unimaginable.
Yeah.
Oh, which is a segue into fool around and you'll find out. DEI.
FAFO.
The DEI initiative is technically an anti-Black initiative tied to other initiatives that are anti-Black, like erasing Black veterans' contribution to the military, and so on and so forth. But let's take a look at who really benefits. Who are the beneficiaries of affirmative action and DEI?
Speak it.
You know me, bro. I try to reference a source, so you don't have to figure out whether it's fake news or not, all right?
That's right.
Let's talk about a 1995 study from the U.S. Department of Labor that found that white women accounted for 6 million of the 7 million jobs created through affirmative action policies. Let me repeat that. White women accounted for more than 6 million of the 7 million jobs created through affirmative action policies. It's 1995. All right? White women continue to see the most gains from DEI hiring initiatives. While black and brown women remain severely underrepresented in the executive leadership. We're talking about corporate America now. White women have made significant progress, outpacing all other racial and gender groups in promotions to the C-suite. That's according to McKinsey's Work in the Workplace report that found that all white women held 30% of the senior leadership roles. Black women and Latinos women held 4% and 3% respectively. White women have also benefited from federal contracting set-asides. The Women-Owned Small Business Program at the SBA, designed to help underrepresented women entrepreneurs, has disproportionately benefited white women, many of whom have gained the system by leveraging partnerships with minority-owned businesses. Meanwhile, black women-owned companies still struggle to secure funding and procurement contracts. So white men are the winners. Because where are the white women taking those dollars to? Their community, to their men. So this, again, we've been misinformed, misled, bamboozled, led astray. Okay? The DI industry is worth over $8 billion annually. Who's making the money? Who's creating the gigs? And who's getting the training sessions? Many of those lucrative contracts go to white-led firms like McKinsey, Korn Ferry, and PwC firms that ironically lack diversity themselves, according to the Harvard Business Review. And I could go on and on. Benefits that were designed to help black people in diversity initiatives have helped white people. So why are they attacking it like it's some kind of Black Panther movement? I don't get it. Oh, there's an attack on white women too? I didn't know that. I'll be darned. What say you, my brother?
You want to go Rodney first?
Go ahead, Bob.
Hey, listen, what they do is they conform the DEI definition to the way they want it to be. So what the example that you just gave is an example of, hey, you have these DEI initiatives, but the ones that have been gaining the most are white women. But then when they turn around and they enforce it to where they want to conform it to be DEI, meaning i.e. black or brown people or minorities, then they reverse it around to be something bad. So for example, as we know now, what they're trying to do now at Harvard or at other schools across the country is take away DEI initiatives, which ultimately will funnel down to HBCUs. Okay, so they dirty up the definition, they dirty up the term so that you're not thinking of it in the way that you just described it, Rodney. They'll think of it gets perceived in a way as though, oh, DEI, oh yeah, these black people that are getting jobs that are unqualified to get them, right? They only got it because they're a minority. You know, they couldn't have earned it by their intelligence or couldn't have earned it by merit. They got it only because of their skin color. And that's been plain as day with who he's replaced in the military with the Department of Defense. So, you know, you see those things, super qualified people who have pristine records, definitely should be in the position. They earned their way up to where they are, but we gotta get rid of them and then use the term DEI behind it to show why.
Yeah, and you know,
DEI is not hurting white people.
No,
it's making them richer.
Richer. And I'm not sure who coined the acronym for DEI being instead of diversity, equity, and inclusion. They said didn't earn it. I don't know who coined that.
Didn't earn it.
But I love it. I'm gonna tell you why.
That, yeah.
Because you know, staying on the whole acronym thing, right? We're talking about DEI, but we also, this category or this topic is a FAFO topic, right? And so I say that because that's what's happening in America, is that everybody else outside of African Americans are FAFOing right now. Everything that black people have been talking about, especially since the 1950s, but especially since around 1963, 1964, 1965, America is just, it's like we've been knowing this stuff and we've been screaming it.
Mm-hmm.
We are leaders, those who are long gone and those who are still with us, they have been screaming it forever. And white women know that they are the beneficiaries of their proximity to white men and also the blood, sweat, and tears of black people in them streets.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is that now I have this, I'm in certain circles, and there's a feeling that I'm getting is that, you know what, those white women who has not benefited so much from the proximity to white men, from black people out in them streets over these last 60 years or so, those white women are tired of those white women. And they are starting to call them out and come after them, right? Because they see that they're not benefiting. Because again, I'm going to go back to that theme, right? Until it's me. Until it's me. It fits this one as well. Until it is me. And so you know what? Those other white women who have not benefited from DEI, from, all the other, programs and different things, for minorities, because they are a minority. The only person in this country who is not a minority is a cisgender white male. Okay, period. Everybody else is a minority, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're realizing that, oh, I'm losing my job. This is affecting me. So guess what? Now they want to wake up. Now they want to go against their sister and, their fellow sisters and say, hey, what's going on? So I just wanted to bring out that again, that it does fit this one. But I'm going to tell you, gentlemen, I'm going to be straight up honest with you with, they've gotten enough. So now they want to demonize it, right? Because they have that system. Y'all know the deal. And I'm going to shut up. They have that system of, you know what? You first kind of defund them, take the money away, and then you demonize them, right? Then you demonize them, and then you just get rid of them, and so that is what's happening. But it doesn't happen until they have benefited the absolute most from it. And I'm gonna tell you, white women, I'm just gonna say it again, didn't earn it. White women have benefited a lot. I'm not saying no white women earn anything that they have gotten over these last 60 plus years, especially since all these programs and stuff started to come about. But let me tell you something. Guys. People are starting to wake up. People are starting to know it. And I love that especially our black women are not allowing for anyone to forget who is benefiting from this. And we also collectively have to keep on reminding people that we've been telling you this for years, for decades.
That's right.
So all the brown people and other people or whatever, other minorities, okay, whether you're gay, whether you are whatever, we've been trying to tell you. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. And the irony of the whole thing is affirmative action and diversity, equity, and inclusion was supposed to address racial and economic injustice.
Purposely.
That was the purpose.
Right.
And who in America has suffered the most from racial and economic injustice? Descendants of chattel slavery and Native Americans. So I'm flabbergasted. When I saw the numbers, bro, I was like, OMG, what is going on? I'm missing the point here. Why are we going down this trail?
That is why, right? That is why they will not. That is why it's intentional that they would not allow for any legislation to pass at any branch of government, from local all the way up to federal, that is specific to black people. So so therefore, the least people who would benefit are the people who actually got that legislation to even become a bill or even become discussed in a committee somewhere. So
yeah. I got you, bro. I got you. So that's the research I did on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it just flabbergasted me, man. I was like totally blown away.
Bobby, like you had something to say before I move to mine. I think you.
No. I mean, I'm just, it goes back to what I was saying before about they make it, they conform it to what they want it to be. It's the same thing with welfare. When they talked about welfare queens, they want you to believe that it's black people gaming the system, when the reality of it is there's more white people on welfare than any other minority or any other race. So it's just a combination of demonizing, as we mentioned before, demonizing something so that you have this perception. And this stuff goes back to that horrible movie, Birth of a Nation.
Yes, sir.
Where you've got stereotypes and you've got an image that you want to portray that demonizes anybody that's not white. I mean, that's just the bottom line. So we fought through this. We've had, some gains, obviously, through the civil rights movement, but it's a constant battle. It's not something that you can just lay the torch down and say, hey, we're good. We finally reached there. No, it's a constant struggle and it's a constant battle.
Yep. And I do believe that white Americans are actually on welfare and these programs, food stamps and stuff, more than anybody per capita, not just in numbers, because but yeah, like you said, demonize it and then cut it all together. Okay, so I'm going to get into my topic. I came up with this topic kind of last minute, well, not necessarily last minute, but it's been kind of festering on me because like so many programs like Social Security and other big programs that people have earned, I've had many veterans to come up to me and to either come up to me or call me or text me and ask me about can this guy really cut veteran benefits? Will he really do that? Is he so stupid to do that? And, because veterans are a pretty, reliable voting bloc and that kind of thing, right? For those who are, especially those who are receiving benefits, we know that a lot of veterans suffers from, being unhoused and other things. And so, of course, if you're unhoused, you're not worried about voting, that's for sure. But, they believe, just like with Social Security, I kind of talked about a little bit, they believe that, no, there's no way he can cut it, Rod, there's no way he can cut it, man, because there's just so many people on it, and this, that, and other. And I'm going to break, I think the veterans, because it's such a niche kind of group, I think it'll be a good opportunity for me to break down, exactly how, they would go about, eliminating veterans benefits. And in that very last stage, if they don't get rid of it, then they privatize it, right? Like we talked about with Social Security. If people think that the Veterans Administration cannot be gotten rid of, remember, they're demonizing it right now. They're making the doctors and everybody, same with the CDC, right? Demonize it or whatever, defund it, take money away from it, and then, privatize it or just get rid of it altogether, Department of Education, right? So if people think that, veterans, that it can't happen with the VA, they think that it's such a huge thing and that, veterans are so patriotic and they're such, I'm telling you, we talked about Project 2025 on this platform on whether it was the roundup with Rodney and Rodney or whether it was the local lookout with Rodney and Bobby, we talked about it over and over and over again and tried to get people to read it and understand it. Look, we understand people are not going to read all 900 something pages. Got it. But, we ask people, go out there and at least take a look at it so you don't doubt us, right? But again, it goes back to where it's not happening to me. Now, America is also in a place where, people feel like, again, going back to that whole thing about with me saying that it's not me. Well, most of Americans are not veterans. Most of America is not even remotely close to the military in any kind of way, right? Unless you live near a military place or a military town, you are more likely to see a Hollywood movie star than you would to see an active duty military person.
Right.
That's how rare, active duty military people are. So I say that to say that, look, listen, this is to my veterans, okay? I hope, I'm a veteran just like you are. I hope, but we know about hope. I hope that this guy just leave veterans alone, but he has been on a journey, just like he's been. They're digging up stuff where Donald Trump said 30 years ago that's coming to pass today. This guy has been testing this whole veterans theory thing. He started, with the whole John McCain thing, and veterans don't, he's not a war hero. He got caught and all this other kind of stuff. He has denigrated veterans, at their tombstones and all kinds of stuff, right? He has recently said, this guy's talking about putting on a military parade for his birthday, because he want to be Kim Jong-un and all these other guys. He want to be, what's his face, over there in Russia, Putin. I couldn't even think. And, so he want that kind of stuff, right? But yet we know that Donald Trump despises, I tell people all the time, what is hate? Hate is what you cannot be or what you cannot have, right? So Donald Trump, he hates the military, right? Because he can't be it. He can't, with the bone spurs and everything else that he made up, he can't be it. And I even heard once that the guy doesn't even like for military people in dress uniform to stand near him because it makes him look small, right? Because he don't have all these shiny things on his suit. So he don't want them even like close to him, and stuff like that, because it makes him look small. So, he hates and despises what he cannot be or cannot have. So this guy, like so many others, want to go after the military. They don't care about the military and veterans. Remember, there was a time where if you wasn't a veteran, if you didn't have that on your resume, you were not going to become a chief executive pretty much in this country at hardly no level. Whether it's the governorships or the president or even mayors almost, you had to have some kind of military service. Well, we see that that's not the case anymore. The military has been demonized. Remember what I said, right? They'll demonize it, right? Okay, then they'll the money they won't take because, like I said, they will fill up the pockets of their of these contractors, and keep that kind of thing going. If they could contract the entire boots on the ground, they would. Okay, they try to do it with Blackwater, Bobby. You know the deal, right? And I think you even know about that. And we see how that went, right? But that's not to say they won't try it again. Now, I'm saying that I'm gonna let you guys in because I really want to break this down. I really want because this not only applies to the VA and with the military, it also applies to every single thing. And speaking of the military, since I just said it, the active military or reserves, National Guard, the people who are still in uniform who are not veterans yet. Okay, listen, I told some of these guys months ago, almost a year ago, that they are going to start targeting. They are going to start targeting things that they know that affect black and brown soldiers, male and female, and they're going to design ways to get rid of them, right? And one of the biggest things that they've done so far is the shaving situation, right? So most in the military, you're supposed to have a clean face, right? No matter what the branch, you're supposed to have a clean cut face. Okay. One of the things I talked about months ago, and it has come to fruition right now that is happening. Okay, is that there was a lift on. Standards were relaxed for military members who cannot shave without getting the bumps. Right. And so you can grow your beard out, your mustache or whatever. You can grow it out, a certain, I don't know, quarter of an inch, whatever it may be. Right. So people would see and this was something that even that Joe Biden, said, hey, let's keep that going because, it is not a big deal. And I'm gonna get back to the veteran thing, but it's not a big deal that if you have a beard or whatever, or hair on your face, a 6 o'clock shadow, as some of us call it, that should affect you in fighting in combat, right? Bobby, back in the day, they used to tell us, well, because your mask can't seal. Right. Your mask can't seal if you got, it's like, man, whatever, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so now it's like, hey, so what they have done with the Hepsif, whatever that guy, Hepsif, the Secretary of Defense who was a drunken captain running around the reserves or National Guard, whatever the guy was in. And I'm not denigrating any of that. I'm just saying, this guy bumped up a 4-star general, because of basically racism. And I'm gonna just say what it is, And so, so this guy, so they know that affect over 60% of the people who are affected by, that. You cannot shave, and there's a name for it. I wish I'd have brought it, but
shaving profile.
It's a shaving profile, but there's a name for the actual. There's a name for the actual condition, for where your skin, where your hair curls back into your skin. Yeah, but that's an actual medical condition.
Yeah,
the medical name.
I can't think of it.
The medical name is long. Yeah,
because I had it.
Right. And so the medical names are very, very long, but it's an actual condition. And so, but over 60% of people that are affected by that are black people in the military.
Yeah.
So guess what?
Yeah, that makes sense.
You see what I'm saying? So it makes sense, right? Our hair curls, and it curls back in some of us. I didn't have that issue, thank God, but I've seen it, and it can be very irritating. And guess what? I think they're doing some kind of 6-month deal, study on it, and look at here. That's how you get rid of you look at the things that affect those people.
Yep.
Even the weight standards, the tape standards. Bobby, you know, being in the Army as well as I know, that it is unfair to the composition of black men, but especially black women, because of the hips and the curves that black women have, you know, but all that stuff is based on white people's standards, right?
Right.
And so when I'm gonna just put it this way, when I was in a leadership school, a senior military leadership school, when I was in the military still, you know, that was one of the things that we went over. It was a few days, 3 or 4 days, and one of the things that we went over was the military taping standards to see, you know, if your body composition is that of, you know, that you can stay in the military. Well, of the guys who were there, you know, over 90%, because of our weight and because of our height and weight, 90% of the black guys that was there all had to be taped using a tape measure, because we were over, like, for instance, for my height at that time, I could not weigh more than, I believe it was 179 pounds. And I actually weighed like 188 pounds. Right. But here's the catch. But because I weighed over 179 pounds, I had to get taped. But because I, but even though I got taped, just like the rest of the 12 or so of us, I believe it was, that got taped, I'm talking about black guys, none of us were over 12% body fat. We were lean. We were linebackers, man. We were lean. But guess what? You can also measure and take people simply by visual. If you're a certain leader in the military unit, you could just say, hey, you don't look right. You don't look well proportioned. I would tell you this, all of those skinny white guys, when they take off their shirt, they did not look like us. And guess what? When you sitting there with a 15-inch, when you sitting there with a 14-inch neck, and you sitting there with a 36-inch waist, you just don't look right. When we have 38-inch necks, but yet we have, you know, something like 31-inch waist. You see what I'm saying? So I just say that is how, and I warn active duty military people of this. I even talked about the shaving profile, Bobby, and I said, I'm gonna tell you something. They look at what's different, and it's like, okay, let's go after it. Everything that they relax that, you know what, you can now have a slight beard or whatever, and or you can carry, it's always been where you can carry around that shaving profile, but it's like you can have a slight beard if you have this issue. But guess what? Just like it was never permanent though, just like our voting rights, but that's a whole nother story. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? It was never permanent. And Bobby, you know about profiles, and these people that know, it was never a permanent profile.
Right.
It was always a temporary thing, just like our voting. So, but anyway, now I'm gonna skip back to the veterans guys, and also I'm gonna let y'all in here. I feel like that's why I said, you know, I need to do one, but I really want to break this down because it really does apply to so many other things that I know we're going to talk about, and people need to understand that these people are not going to take. They're not taking. It looks like they're taking a machete, but they're not. They are using a scalpel, gentlemen. But they are having people to act like there's a machete going on. People get all crazy. Donald Trump will throw something in the media. But then behind the scenes, they're using a scalpel, a surgeon scalpel. And so here's what I've told a couple of veterans is how they would go after the veterans benefits. Okay. So there are only, in America, there's just over 6.1% of people in the whole entire United States. We got over 330 million people. Only 6.1% of those people are veterans. So we are a very small group of people, very small group of people. And of that 6.1%, only 30% of them actually receives benefits from the VA. Only 30% of the 6.1% veterans receive veteran benefits. And of the 30% that receives benefits, only 20% of them receives 100% VA disability. Only 20% of the 30% that receives. So it's first of all, I want veterans to know you are a very small number if you are 100% veteran, or even if you are just a veteran receiving veterans benefits, even if you're not 100%, even if you're 30%, 40%, 50%, you are a very small group of people. It doesn't take anything to go after a very small group of people. Now, even though they don't care about numbers because there's no safety in numbers. So what happens is, you see, if you are somebody who's receiving veterans benefits, and you have to go and you have to get assessed and all this kind of stuff to see if you are eligible for those benefits, and they can reassess you anytime that they want to. Okay, now there's a rule that pretty much once you're over 55 years old, you're kind of safe. They're not going to keep messing with you and keep having you to go reassess to see if your back is still hurting or whatever. Your back is still that 20% disability that you get for your back. They can make you go reassess and get that checked out. Okay. So let's say, hey, they're not going to, if they cut everybody, man, veterans will be all out in the street and be out there just like, oh, hell no, you're not going to do this to us or whatever. First of all, most of those veterans will be too afraid to even go out in the street because it's like, I thought you couldn't walk, what you doing out here protesting or whatever, right? Or, or whatever, right? And for those ones who are afraid to even be seen doing stuff, because when you're worried about your benefits, now you're afraid. But then most of the veterans, they can't do that kind of stuff anyway. Once upon a time, they were gung-ho and all that, but you're not anymore. Okay, that's number one. So no, they're not going to just take a machete to all the veterans. But it's like, hey, all those veterans who receiving 100% disability or 90%, 80%, okay, if they're under 55, have them jokers to go and get reassessed, and let's not be so generous. Let's not be so generous. You understand what I'm saying, Rodney? You understand what I'm saying, Bobby? Let's really take a scalpel to them, right? You know what I'm saying? And no, they cannot use their own doctor. They're gonna have to use the people that we put out there. Okay. And then it's like, well, what about those? Hey, for those ones who was not in active combat, yeah, let's see what and then for those ones who didn't, maybe do longevity retirement, 20 or more years. And then for those ones who maybe didn't do more than 10 years or whatever, or those ones, and you see they just go and go and go, and then guess what? People keep saying, well, that don't apply to me because and then until there's no one left, right?
Right.
So let me tell you, that is how, once again, gentlemen, so for the veterans who are listening, okay, no, they're not going to just say, all you veterans, you are off of this. Same way with Medicare. Same way, you're just gone. They're not going to do that. They're going to categorize you because they know they've already tested. Donald Trump has been testing for years now of what America really care about veterans. No, Donald Trump has not gotten really the pushback that he needed to get when he talked about John McCain, when he denigrated the tomb of the unknown soldier, when this guy was all over at D-Day, making comments. 5-star families. No one has come out because guess what? Only 6.1% of people in America are veterans. So guess what America don't care about? They really don't care because guess what? It's not me. It doesn't affect me. So gentlemen, I just want to keep throwing that in there. I'm sorry I took so long, but I really had to break this down. I really had to break this down, and I'm just going to be quiet, guys. Talk to me.
No, I mean, and I didn't. You were preaching the gospel, okay? So that's why I just wanted to just listen and let you get it out to everybody else. As a veteran, my father's a veteran, my grandfather's a veteran, numerous cousins, uncles, you name it, both sides of my family, as well as my in-laws. The thing that bothers me as a veteran the most right now is, for one, voting for a felon to run the country. Number two is knowing that the history that we've been taught, and we say so much about how we care about, support the troops, we love our veterans, et cetera, et cetera. We've got holidays celebrating the 4th of July, Memorial Day, Veterans Day. And then here we have right now, at this moment in time in history, not only someone that didn't serve, but actually, ran from service, made up a lie to not be drafted into service. But it's how we're doing things in relation to the world right now. We've basically stiff-armed our allies in Europe. We've started a trade war with Canada and Mexico, our two biggest allies on this side of the world. We've sat there and we've talked about World War II ad nauseum growing up, about how that was the big one, right? We defeated fascism. And look at where we are right now. And those things anger me to no end, knowing that when I joined, I was 19 years old. And I was a reservist in the Army. I was a college student. But I know I was told I was going to be activated to go over to Saudi Arabia. And this was probably 3 days after we finished AIT, that quick. And so when I showed up the next day expecting to hear the worst, we weren't called. All right. So you show up for your time of duty as you sign up to do, you show up and then you're at their mercy. I'm a college student at that time. So anytime that phone rang, I didn't know if that was the call to go. I knew I had 24 hours to report. So you never know. You're living on pins and needles from something like that. But to know that we are here right now, after knowing all of what we've been taught in history, coming up through grade school, and here we are at a moment right now where people have relaxed themselves to where all this stuff that's happening is, oh, it's okay. They don't realize how vulnerable we are right now to an attack because of what's going on. You don't stiff arm your allies. That's the reason why we formed NATO, so that you would have an alliance against certain things from happening. People don't understand what the United States position in the world is supposed to be. Because I remember standing in formation when they told us Iraq had invaded into Kuwait. And then it hit me right then and there saying, oh, Lord, that does matter to us. And when they tell us we've got oil reserves there, our interests are there, we want them out there digging in, we're going to war. That's what we were told. And so when like this has been going on in the name of democracy involving the United States for decades, and it spilled over into people not understanding our relationship with Israel, not understanding that no matter how you may feel about Israel, Israel has been someone that has given us intelligence information to thwart numerous attacks on us from terrorist attacks. That's part of our relationship with Israel. Since World War II, we were the first nation. Harry Truman was the first one to recognize Israel as a sovereign nation. You don't have to agree with how they got there, but just telling you that's where it all started. So we're supposed to be the world leader. We've retreated from that. We have absolutely retreated from that now, and the world knows it as it currently stands. So how do you think they're going to feel should something happen here with us? How do you think they're going to view us if something were to happen? Look how close we are, how close Alaska is to Russia. All right? And then we're sitting here in a trade war with Canada and having bad relations with Canada. It's amazing to me how people don't realize how much you put your guard down, no matter how strong we are as a nation, no matter how strong we are in terms of what we have as a fighting force. And as Rodney just alluded to, you to understand, our entire military is made up of volunteers. There's no draft. It's volunteers. So, and people join for numerous reasons. And the number one reason is not that you just want to be Rambo and go out and fight against somebody. No, it's generally around college students like myself, for example, or someone looking to start a career, and the benefits, okay, whether it be educational, health. That's generally why people join. It's not to be Rambo, okay? But once you're in, you're in, all right? You're expected to serve. That's what you signed up for, against all enemies, foreign and domestic, which is one of the things that upset me the most about January 6th. So I'm going to stop there on my rant before I go even deeper. But Rodney, I know you probably got something to say as well.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for your service to our nation, despite the fact that our nation hasn't serviced you the way that they should. That's number one. So I go all to my veterans, regardless of your color. You are true blue as far as I'm concerned. Well, my dad was a Marine drill sergeant in the colored unit. And I grew up hearing about what happened in Greenwood when the black veterans went to the courthouse with their armaments to protect this young man who was falsely accused of harassing white women in an elevator. So we have served this country. One of our ancestors was the first to die for this country.
That's right.
In the Revolutionary War.
Crispus Attucks.
Crispus Attucks.
Okay? Yes, sir. Okay? See, we've been on the front line in every major conflict on behalf of a nation that has not served us well.
Doesn't love us
Even
back.
when we were considered 3/5 of a human, we still came out and served our country. So I am appalled. I'm just completely appalled at the effort to erase the contributions of black men and women to this country, not just the firing that have been so obvious as a message, but in general, the elimination of our history in service of this country, in museums. It's just, what you're telling me, if I'm a young man looking at getting out of high school, and I look like one of the three of us on this show, and a recruiter comes to me to join the Army, the Air Force, the Marines, the Navy, whatever, am I going to be motivated to sign up under this type of treatment and the way that we're non-respected right now in terms of our past contribution to this country? And you want us to go now to serve? It's going to be difficult for me to understand how any kids from our community would want to serve under this type of regime. That's what I feel. And then that puts us in a bigger quandary in terms of, well, y'all not stepping up, so, we're gonna continue to oppress you. But it's like a no-win situation. So I'm completely depressed about it and appalled that this is the way our veterans are being treated, regardless of their color, but particularly African American contributions to this country through the military service is just, I'm aghast, man. I'm just aghast. How you want to be great, but yet you don't see your citizens as your citizens? It's just beyond me, man.
But Rodney, when we look at Project 2025, like the three of us have, we realize that it's not about the country being great. They don't care about that, right? They care about money and power. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And this is absolutely hurting recruitment, which in turn really hurts national security. But you see,
yes, sir,
when you got people saying, well, I'm not a veteran, I can't, I don't benefit from that. Well, I tell you what you benefit from. You benefit from those boots on the ground that allow you to even, let's say, if you're somebody that hate veterans, for instance, if you're somebody that hate the military, guess what? It is because of those boots on the ground that give you the right to hate the people that you hate. Yeah. So if you think it doesn't affect you, like I said, that's my theme. If you think it doesn't affect you, just watch. What I'm telling you is that recruitment is hurting. Now, when we look at Project 2025, we know they don't care about recruitment because their plan is as simple as this. If we have to go to war, we would just reinstitute the draft, and we would take all of those blackies and put them right back on the front lines, just like we did in Vietnam. You see what I'm saying? And there is nothing you can do about it, because guess what? When you poor and hungry or whatever, number one, like I said, the poor, that's why they're going after the poor people first. You're going after the poor first, because now you're poor and you're worried about housing. And you think if you're worried about, in 4 years from now, if you think you're worried about housing and food, do you really think you care about getting down to your local precinct and vote? No, you're just not worried about that. So you make people poorer, and the poorer people are, the less engaged they become, because guess what?
Correct.
When you look at this thing called, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, all right, where self-actualization is at the top of that pyramid of those 5 categories, and at the very bottom is just your safety, just your food, clothing, your food and shelter and that kind of thing. Look, when you are at the bottom, you're not worried about you're not worried about actualizing anything. You feel what I'm saying? And so, so if you can get people there, and that's the goal of Project 2025, if you can get people there, because if you want to have, we know that these guys are simply they're trying to almost change. They're trying to change the government overnight. People don't understand. People got to remember, Adolf Hitler was elected.
Yeah.
And within 9 days, this guy literally changed the way Germany looked. In 9 days, okay? And not to say what he did over time, but it doesn't take that long for this stuff to happen. So one of the things is, if you want to take a democracy and turn it into a fascist type country, man, just make as many people poor as possible. And so so that's, and I promise you're not worried about certain things. And so, but yes, the military, I'm glad you said that, Rodney, but the military, right now it is a national security issue as a concern as far as I'm concerned. And at the end of the day, bro, what they plan on doing, like I said, if they need us or whatever, go back and get those blackies or whatever they call, and look, we'll institute the draft. And guess what? When you don't have nowhere to go, if they offering you something, that, hey, when you come back from whatever, Vietnam #2, then we're going to have this and that for you, and they're not going to have anything for you because you're probably not coming back because you're probably going to die over there anyway. So these are just the things that we need to think about.
But in intelligence, diversity is an asset. Cultural diversity is an asset in intelligence.
True.
You can't send somebody that look like me and you into a community that we don't speak the language or look like them. That's not going to happen. So we are cutting our nose off to spite our face, despite the fact that we know it's not right. We know it's not right.
And so, when you think about Pete Hegseth and the debacle with Signal, using Signal, the Signal app, it bleeds into what Rodney's saying too. These kind of things upset me big time because it's a national security issue. It's something that
Bobby, if you and I had done that while we were in, we would be under the brig.
Imagine if this had happened under President Obama's tenure. We'll get to that. Yeah. I mean, it just, there's just so much hypocrisy that it galls me every day. It angers me to no end. And I'm just sick of it. It's just the incompetence of people not understanding that this administration is putting all of us at risk. Stop thinking about the D and the R. All of us are at risk with this foolishness. It is. So you don't tick off your allies and think that if something goes bad, that they're gonna be like, all right, man, we got you. No, you just spit in our face. And so all these things do is weaken us because I don't care how strong we are, you can't fight the world by yourself.
Right.
You can't. So that's the whole point of having allies, the whole point of having an alliance. And I don't think this administration understands that. And it's already been revealed. You saw in the text messaging with the current vice president, speaking about his disdain for Europe. It's just, it's like you're revealing all this stuff. But again, it's clown stuff. It's unprofessional. It's just that kind of nonsense. And to think that people voted for this, it's never going to sit right with me. People
ask me, Bobby, what is the difference? What do you think the difference is? Why do the Caucasians, for instance, in Europe tend to act different? And I'm going somewhere with this, as far as what's happening, as far as the world, as far as understanding that there's a world economy, understanding that, that we are all kind of linked in together. I said education. That's why I want to get rid of the Department of Education. Yeah. Number one is because Caucasians here in America, they have suffered the most, in my opinion, from the whitewashing of true American history and of world history, you see? And so therefore, when you have all of these Caucasian boys who are now men in the Trump administration, he's surrounded himself around sycophants and people who are just going to be totally loyal to him, right? So, but you got to understand, all of these white boys, because that's what they are. It's a Black Man's Roundtable, right? Mm-hmm. All of these white boys came up under a certain kind of system of this whitewashing of America, and they really do believe that they are more powerful, that there's no one, that they are at the top of the food chain and all that kind of stuff. They have bought into the BS about who they are. And so they believe, number one, that the world, like you said, Bobby, we can't fight the world alone. They believe we can. They believe we can. But guess what? It won't be with hardly any of these guys have ever served one day in military boots. Not one of them. But they have a certain kind of prestige. They have a certain kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Privilege that, you know, that and they was raised, they really, so when you taking all of these real history, when you're whitewashing history, you're taking all of this stuff out of the museums, out of the schools, they are not trying to miseducate us. Because we're going to get what we're going to get.
Right.
We're not new to this. We just true to this.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
That's right.
So they are trying to mislead and miseducate their own people.
That's right.
So they can grow up and believe, just like Hetzef and all these other folks. I'm going to tell you something. That guy Hetzef actually believed that he is better than General good God, the guy he replaced, can't even, it was on the tip of my head, tip of my tongue, the 4-star general that he replaced because he's a black man. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
This is the world that these white boys grew up in, you know, and look, at the end of the day, you know, they were nurtured by these white women. And they really believe this stuff, guys. I know, Bobby, like you said, they believe you cannot fight the world. You cannot beat the world. Here in America, these white boys, I'm telling you guys, they were raised differently than what we are. We looking at them like they're crazy, and the white Europeans are looking at them like, what is wrong? The education, it all comes back to the education system, and that's why under Project 2025, the education system was the first to let's get rid of it.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. And the attack on these institutions to change their policies, supposedly because it's too pro-black, that's a misnomer. And if they're testing the system, see how much they can get away with.
Yes, sir. Testing it every day.
That's really what it's coming down to. And the words that come to my mouth are constitutional crisis. We talked about this when we were looking at Project 2025 last year before the election. Constitutional crisis.
I think we're in it already.
We are.
We're in it.
We are, because they're defying court orders.
They're defying court orders.
You know, so
that's a constitutional crisis right there.
Yeah. I mean, rewriting the rules to whatever they want. Same thing with trying to rewrite the Constitution or not even abide by the Constitution. The hell with that. You know,
executive orders.
Yeah.
The country is being ran by executive orders.
Yeah.
You know, and but yeah, gentlemen, you know, it is what it is. And yes, they before Bobby, you'll get the next one, but they, you know, there is no, guys, don't stop thinking normal. Stop thinking, you know, that this is some normal stuff. It is not. It is not. This right here has come to a summit of since 1964 Civil Rights Act, Civil Rights Bill. And this thing is 60 years in the making. And they, like I said, you know, black people and others thought that we have overcome. They were not even hearing that. They were in their, they were already in their second civil war, man, you know, starting in the 60s. And so this has been something that has gone on, and they have gotten the people exactly where they want them. I've always said that this country, this system of marketing, not marketing, the system of money that we're under called capitalism. I've been telling people, you know, that this country is I've been telling people this for 10, 15 years now, that this country is run by, you know, 15 to 20 billionaires, and just about your paycheck will probably end up, you know, coming under the purview of one of those billionaires, even if it's very far away. It's like, oh, so I fall up under Walmart. How did I do the Walton family? How did I do that? Well, you know, that's the way it works. But what they needed to get was a billionaire, or at least a billionaire wannabe, to be the head of the largest employer in the United States, and that's the federal government. So now when you take the federal government, okay, Donald Trump is supposedly a billionaire, right? And then you take all of these billionaires that people work at, or whatever, they don't even know that they fall upon. Let me tell you something. You probably got 75% of the country, and even the small business owners say, "Well, I'm a small business owner. I do my thing or whatever." Yeah, but I need you to go look at your shelves. Go look at your shelves and see, how many products Kellogg or whoever. So at the end of the day, gentlemen, it is what it is. They put us to where we are. It's not a me thing. Like you said, Rodney, I'm glad you said testing. They are testing the waters with everything. That's why you see different things come out, per week, and they'll just test it and see how they are trying to get black people out in them streets. You know what I'm saying? They'll just come out one week and say, "Oh, we're just going to cut, we're just going to cut out, the Martin Luther King Center. It's gone. We're going to get whatever, right? Just to see how we're going to react." But I'm telling you, brother, I'm so proud of us right now in the way, and that's going to be my second one if we get to it. I am so proud of the way that we are behaving, that we are managing ourselves collectively, and we didn't even have to have a meeting. We just know what to do. We did not have to have a large meeting. We know exactly what to do.
That's right.
So on April the 5th or whatever, I know some people don't agree with it. Where the black people at? Where the black people at? Well, yeah, we've been here. You know what I'm saying? Since 1619, and we've been trying to tell you. So I'm like this. Right? We didn't have to have a meeting not to show up. We just know what to do and when to do it. But I'll talk about that in a minute. But Rodney, you're right. They are testing. Same way, like I said, going back to the veterans thing, the military, Donald Trump has been testing. There has been no outrage on this guy. All those people with that Signal app, them people should be in prison right now. They should have went to prison the next day, according to the military code of the
Code of
UCMJ, the UCMJ, they should be in prison. Okay, you said, well, they don't follow up on the UCMJ. Well, guess what? They also follow up on the federal government. They should be in prison, point blank. They are testing it. Donald Trump has said all these negative, nasty things about the military, about veterans, about war veterans, about veteran 5-star, like Bobby said. No, America has not chopped his head off because of it. Of course, not literally chopped his head off, but America has not gone after him. He's like, okay. So he's just trying to see how much do they really care about the military? How much do they really care about veterans? Okay, guys, we can chop that. And that's what they're doing systematically throughout everything, even with Social Security. Like I said, if you believe that you're never going to get Social Security, it's like, well, okay, whatever.
And again, that goes back to people not understanding that you may not think it affects you, but it affects your parents, it affects your grandparents. And one day, and by the way, you're paying for it because it's coming out of your paycheck.
Yep.
You are paying for it. You're paying into it. But until it reaches the day, like you said, when it impacts you directly, then you'll understand. So what you need to do is educate yourself ahead of time so that you can understand why it does matter to you down the road.
All right, Bobby, let's hit your next one, man.
My next one is more of a sentiment, I guess, so to speak, because I know there's some other things I could talk about, but I want to make sure I bring this up, and which is the presidency of Barack Obama. President Obama, I think right now is not getting the credit he rightfully deserves for his tenure in office. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it being ignored. His tenure was successful. We would not be dealing with the things we're dealing with right now under his leadership. And now we're actually talking about this clown trying to get a third term. So I just want to highlight some things that President Obama accomplished because I'm tired of this shell game that's being played. So when you look back and realize at the last election that just passed, things like, well, were things better? How were things when he was in office last time? Let's deal with some facts here, okay? President Obama spent 8 years putting America back on its financial feet. All right. The stock market nearly tripled during his tenure. Unemployment was cut in half. I'm talking about not only for the nation, but for black unemployment as well. All right. Saving the auto industry. And you know what people have just totally forgotten about is capturing the world's most wanted terrorists under his administration. Okay. So when you add up those things right there and realize that you have someone in office right now who wants to be what his administration accomplished. He's not going to cut unemployment in half. He's always trying to make a bigger issue about military maneuvers. But you're not going to get, there's nobody that is going to rise to the level of Osama bin Laden's capture. All right. Unless something gravely happens, which no one wants anywhere. But you've got all these different things that this man accomplished. And, we're sitting here, especially at the last election, we're sitting here talking as though, yeah, he spent 8 years in office. He spent 8 years in office putting the country back on its feet. Okay. We were respected around the world. And most people don't want to give this credit. This alludes to Black history. Most world leaders look like him. Most world leaders are people of color.
That's right.
Okay. So, we look back at 8 years of what he did. And I really burns me the most when I hear our people say, well, he didn't do nothing for Black folks. And that burns me the most, because if you're paying attention to what's going on right now, they are using language. They are trying to eliminate language. We talked about it with DEI, things like underserved communities. They want those words stricken, all right, from what they're doing right now in the implementation of their own ideology, all right, because they know those code words mean Blacks or minorities, all right, and you cannot pass a bill. When people say this stuff, you often ask, like, well, what did you want? I never, ever thought his job when he come in as president was to cure all ills for the Black community. That's an impossible task for anybody to put on their shoulders, to think that was his responsibility. But when he passed Obamacare, all right, when most of us deal with things like diabetes, high blood pressure, right, any number of things, what do you think that was a wink and a nod for us? Okay. You can't write up a bill strictly for Black people, because you know what's going to happen if you did. It ain't going to pass for one. And it's not going to pass for one. And if it did, it'd be thrown to the courts. So, I mean, I just things like that just really annoy me at this point, because I look back and realize, and I knew this when his term was over with already, but I look back and realize the further we get away, that people tend to forget, like, hey, man, look, this was one of America's greatest presidents. And I say that to anybody's face. Yes, he was a success for 8 years. When you've got a Congress for 6 or 8 years deliberately plotting against your failure. They didn't want you to win the first time. They wanted to block who you put in court-appointed judges. And they definitely blocked who you wanted to put in the Supreme Court when they had the chance to. They applauded this. They plotted and planned that. And for all of that to happen, and for his tenure to still be a success, understand that is why Trump got in after him. And that is what they're trying to prevent from ever happening again. And that bleeds into the last election, all right, of what happened. So I just want to point out just a few of those things that, and there's a list of accomplishments I could sit here and give, but it'll just be redundant. But I just want to highlight those things, and for people to understand, like, I'm getting angry the more and more we get further and further away of just how impactful his presidency was on this country, and to understand that the things we're dealing with now are because he was successful. And it just goes to show how deep racism is in this country and how America just cannot shake it. They just don't want to let it go. And you mentioned it before with education and things that you can teach in education. We mentioned it with DEI and how they dirty that word up. It's nothing different. They made that man denounce his own pastor. His own pastor. Let's not forget that. All right. And we can't even get this guy to show us his taxes. He's got the world's longest audit going on. So, it's just things like that, man, where you look back and realize you're criticizing a tan suit. You're reaching and grabbing for stuff. You called him a domestic terrorist. You said that's how his career was launched, as a domestic terrorist. And look where we are right now. Look at all the hypocrisy of who you have in office right now. That stuff burns me, and it just makes me sick. So I'm gonna leave my rant right there, and unless we come back to something else. But
and Bobby,
I'll let you guys speak.
Bobby,
on.
I know anybody that know you knows that this particular subject burns your bottom, bruh. And I love your passion on it. I love the fact that you will not allow, whatever platform you get an opportunity, you will not allow for people to forget about, the accomplishments of President Barack Obama. And I appreciate it. I appreciate your passion for it. For me, it is, I just want to just remind people, it is something that President Obama is not alone. for for so many years, dating all the way back to some of the first representatives and senators of in America after or during Reconstruction, with Hiram Rebels and others
Yep.
who did angels work inside of the the United States Congress, and and they just try, they just wipe them out, man. I think about even what's the senator? I can't think of his name. The one from New Hampshire.
Which one? Bernie Sanders?
Bernie Sanders. I just can't think of his name off the top of my head. Bernie Sanders' platform. Bernie Sanders' platform is literally Jesse Jackson's platform. That is, look it up. Look up Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson had a platform for America in that whole Rainbow Coalition. That is just look at Sanders. I'm not going to, because that's a whole nother 45 minutes at least. But look up. Maybe you can even Google, I don't know, Senator Sanders and Reverend Jesse Jackson platform or something, and you will see that it was literally stolen. And so guess what? What's going to happen is the same fix that Donald Trump had for, that Barack Obama had for America, the same system that he used. I promise you, when this country is at a hell in a handbasket again, if we can ever recover, there'll be some white guy be stealing it and using it to get America back to what it should be and what it used to be, and they would never call his name one time. Because I do not see Sanders running around talking about Jesse Jackson, okay? And that is literally that man's platform for America, So I hear you, Bobby, and there's so much of it. There's so much of it that happens and goes on. But I tell you something. Barack Obama will be our forever president no matter what they do. And we know that if it ain't ours in America, it ain't cool anyway.
That's very true.
Rodney, what you got, Rodney?
Oh man, I'm torn between a couple of things. There were three things that were still on my list: tariffs, HR 22, the voter ID, and deportations.
Real ID.
I think I'm gonna start with the tariffs.
Yes.
Okay.
Here's the bottom line. If Ted Cruz and Rand Paul get in front of the news and tell me that conservatives never agree that tariffs work and that are beneficial to the United States or any country, that tells me if I can agree with them, then it must be right. And you talk about FA and FO. There are farmers in the state and the Midwest, that should remain nameless, that are about to file bankruptcy next month. And the state is going to go bankrupt because of tariffs. We've got beef companies. They're not going to be selling to China anymore. They're getting it from South America. Canada has issued a traveler's warning, so has Europe, on the United States. All of those border resorts on the border, Niagara Falls and all of that, the Canadians are no longer coming to tour this country. So that's just in one sector, okay? To think that factory is going to appear overnight because of tariffs. First of all, if they could appear, they would be automated.
Right.
That's number
right.
one.
That's right.
Okay? And two, unless you have all your supply of parts made in the same country, you're going to get hit with tariffs. In automobile production right now between Mexico and the United States, the vehicle and parts go back and forth before a car is finalized. Won't be able to afford a vehicle. And gentlemen, the thing that blew my mind the most was our POTUS said that the most current agreement between Canada and Mexico and the United States, trade agreement, It's terrible, and it needs to be thrown out. But whose negotiation was it? Whose trade agreement? It was his trade agreement. I'm like, wait a minute. Am I missing something? So we have shot ourselves in the foot, because what is happening is the payback is much more than we can pay. Much more than we can pay. Because now you have nations creating new trade routes and agreements to satisfy their country's needs. And we're being cut out.
Mm-hmm.
We're being cut out. Some of these very countries hold the debt, the bonds. the bonds that we sold. How do you piss in the face of your banker? I'm just amazed. So the issue of tariffs, they're already predicting a recession or worse, even if there's a flip on some of these. This is not how you negotiate with your friends. You don't do that. And I saw the response from the Chinese ambassador when he was told that he would have to come and kiss the rear end of our president to cut a deal. The man just laughed. They have had a meeting this week with the Asian Pacific Rim countries, creating a whole new trading arrangement that we're not part of. So when I go to sleep at night, when I can, and I think about these things, I think about the future generations of everyone who's American, but particularly my people. And what is this going to do to my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren when I'm not here? What kind of place is this going to be? And I say to myself in the morning, wake up, Rodney, it's time to travel back through the Middle Passage. It's time to go home. It's time to build a bridge back, because we are not considered not even 3/5 of a human any longer in this country.
No, sir.
That's the way I feel. So if you can destroy the very people that put you in office, their businesses, their farms, their livelihoods, these people put you in office. What the heck are you going to do to me? What are you going to do to me?
Good point.
To my people. So I don't mean to get so emotional about this, but we have to understand as a people that we have to put aside petty differences and BS that supposedly keeps us apart. That we can't sit down in a room and work out a deal so that we can survive under this system. We can no longer look at each other as enemies. We are not the enemies. And if we don't start looking at each other as family, we're doomed. We're doomed in this country. And this is somebody who's been here for a number of years, been through the system, watched the system, tried to influence the system to help my people. And this is what we're facing. We are become ourselves worst enemy. We have to become ourselves best allies now. We have to spend our money with ourselves. We have to educate our children. You cannot leave that to the oppressor. We have to educate our children, and they can't forget about from whence we came. This is serious. This is not a joke. This is a turning point for us in this country. Right now. Not tomorrow, right now. And we got to get serious. We got to pull families together. We got to have family meetings and talk about what is the future of our siblings, of our brothers and sisters, whether you have the same last name or bloodline or not. We can no longer act like we've been assimilated. They don't want us to be assimilated. We have to be ourselves savior, or we can forget it. And tariffs has made that very clear to me. They don't care about nothing but the money in their pocket. They don't care about you. Don't care what your color is. They don't care about you. And the things that we talked about tonight, We've given you the evidence. This is not a joke. This is real. And it's time that we wake up. Yeah, I'm woke. Y'all better woke too.
Rodney, excuse me, I'm going to add one thing that Rodney was talking about too, as it pertains to tariffs. When first of all, they were saying there was going to be no exemptions, non-negotiable, right?
Yes.
Hammer down, all right? Then you don't give any to Russia. You don't do any tariffs on Russia.
Or Belarus. Or North Korea.
Correct. And then you turn around, and once you start realizing the impact of the tariffs from China, you start exempting stuff. Wait a minute. You don't think other countries see like, wait, hold on. You missed the big balls a while ago, right? With your tariffs.
Bobby, I don't mean to interrupt you, but once you realize the impact that was being affected, the impact on the billionaires.
Right.
Go ahead, Bobby.
Right. That's right.
Go ahead.
That's right.
There you go.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, it's just, I just say, like, if we're seeing this here, what do you think other world leaders are saying? They see the game this dude is playing, man. It's not fooling anybody. It's fake tough stuff. All right. It's selling wolf tickets. Like we like to say, you selling wolf tickets, dude, and people see right through it. It's transparent. So, I'm just amazed that people think, and people would think like, oh yeah, we won. We won. They came to the table, man. This dude has one talent. He has a talent of repackaging up stuff, because that's how he got he's made his money anyway, by name branding, right? He has a talent of packaging up stuff and rebranding it under his own and making it look like we've made these gains, when in reality, we've done nothing, right?
No.
It's done nothing but hurt us. So as you said, Rodney, economists are predicting a recession. Okay. This trade war is self-inflicted. It's not like it's something that they put on us. We're doing it to ourselves, right? To have this projection of how, like, we run everything, so y'all gonna capitulate to us. And like you said, they're just finding new trade routes. It's like these world leaders aren't stupid, man. But it's propaganda. It sells. It works. Unfortunately, it does. But Rodney, as you said, we've got to be smarter, man, and realize, like, hey, look, everything from them trying to dismantle, we can take DEI and make it a good thing, but they want to make it a bad thing. Everything about education and what is being taught. Ironically, when you mentioned earlier about Greenwood, I'm reading a book right now called The Burning, and it's going through all those events. You've already mentioned some of it before, about the events that led up to what happened with the destruction of Black Wall Street. And it's amazing, because when you read these things, you get the realization of how those things can be applied to today. You see why you don't want to teach it, right? So you have to go dig and find this stuff up for yourself. And like you said, Rodney, educate your children, educate the people you love, and to let them know how to go get this information. Go find it, go read it yourself, but stop relying on YouTube videos from somebody, that is, we're doing a podcast here, but so many people on social media, you're relying on YouTube videos or other social media to educate you. Go get it yourself, man. It's just,
read.
Yes, read.
Bobby, Rodney, I'm gonna just real quick. I just want to say that, Bobby talked about Donald Trump and rebranding, and that's what he does best. Yes, that's exactly what he's done. He's rebranded, his grandfather's name, Trump, and I'm not going to go into the history of what that it used to be spelled different, but that's a whole other thing. But anyway, his grandfather and his father, and he just basically just like those, remember I talked about earlier, those privileged white boys in America, just like so many of them do, to include, George W. They basically live off of that, and they end up just losing everything that was privileged given to them. And so he's rebranded. He's become the master of rebranding it. So that's exactly what he did with the Trump name. But Rodney, real quick before you start back, I just want to just thank you for, just your passion. Just like with Bobby, when when he talked about his topic, your passion, man, on what, on this, on the tariffs and not so much your passion wasn't necessarily the tariffs. It is what we need to do because of the tariffs. I just want to let you know, brother, look, we've been knowing each other for a while now. I just appreciate, your passion, your emotion. Same with Bobby. I just want to get that in there before I don't get it in there, because I know how we can get back up. Man. So, but Rodney, go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to put a pin in it and close it down for us on this issue. It's so out in the open, it's scary. Okay? They got the evidence. They got the videotape. They got the words. They got the posts, the Truth Social posts. Buy now. Who made the money on this and who knew about it beforehand when they put in a 90-day reprieve?
Oh, yeah. Wall Street.
Who knew about this? Yeah. There's investigations getting ready to go on. And one of our delegation members in Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene, is under the microscope. They got the goods. They got the receipts.
Mm-hmm.
Who else benefited from that?
Mm-hmm.
And it was so broad, wide, and open, like it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
It was okay. Bragging about how much money it made. Yo, Bobby, now made you buy.
Yep.
$3 billion?
Yep.
300 million?
It's a good time to get rich.
These guys are openly, man, doing insider trading in front of everybody.
All our face.
In front of God and country, man.
Yep.
So when you look at the situation that we're going through, you follow the money. Who's making money on these decisions? Who's benefiting from investigations being closed down on their business because they're coming in to scrub the evidence?
Mm-hmm.
Who's benefiting? Follow the money. Okay? And then in closing on this point of the tariffs, it's the only color it has is green. Because the biggest losers in this effort are states that voted this man in office.
Red states.
The very people that put him in are hurting the most.
Yep.
What does that tell you about a person like that or an administration like that? What does that tell you? We got to get it together. It's on us. This is survival time. This is no joke.
Bet you what, Rodney, them swing states are no longer swinging. They might be rocking a little bit. All that swinging is over with. You understand? So
I hope they swing back the other way.
I want to just say with this, I've been saying, and you guys know on each one of the platforms that we do, I've been really stressing since November the 5th, vote local, vote local, vote local. Y'all been hearing me saying, buy local, buy local, buy local. I'm going to add one more to it, and that is buy now. Buy right now, okay? Buy right now.
Yes,
if you have the funds, if you have, and look, cash is king. Put away as much cash as you possibly can. Buy whatever you're going to buy right now. If you're in the market for a used car, do it. If you're in the market for a new car, if you whatever, do it. And and then if you are a day trader or whatever, if you someone like myself that play around with the stock market a little bit, look, just watch, do what they do. I was always do what they look. You might not have $10 million to invest in this, but you invest your 10. You invest your $10.
That's
you
right.
invest your $100. You understand what I'm saying? If you see them pull away from this, you pull away from it. You know what I'm saying? And so, like you said, Rodney, and you're passionate. I don't know, call for action, and that is, we need to start back being a family. I've said on this platform, y'all know it. I've talked about that we may have to go back to doing. We may have to use some of the same tactics that we had to use in the 1950s in order to get us to the 1964 Civil Rights Act. We might have to use, look, if you think, look, they created an entire country to ship our tail out of here, okay? Which was going to be my last topic, but I'm not going to do it because I want to end it on a certain thing. But now they're talking about, what I said, Rodney, and before pre-recording, I talked about the homegrown Homegrown criminals is what
Yes,
they're
sir.
saying now. Okay.
Yes,
Let
sir.
me tell you something. When you created an entire country
Yes, sir.
to ship black people back and tell them to go back to Africa, okay? Let me
Yes,
tell you
sir.
something. You're not safe. You can have all the real ID, and I do think you should
That's
go.
right.
I do think you should go get your real
Come
ID
on,
before it
come
made or
on,
whatever.
come on.
But let me tell you something. If you think you safe in numbers, like I
Preach.
broke down with, if you
Preach.
think you are safe in citizenship, they don't even consider. Look, man, we're not even really. You better go read the Constitution. Are we citizens? Are we? Are we? You know what I'm saying? So let me tell you something. This is a little shaky, bro. You might want to go and read some stuff, but this is not the time right now. I appreciate your plea. People, we need to go back. Y'all have heard me talk about doing everything from midwifery to back doing midwife stuff all the way to Saturday schools. Y'all have heard me talk about it right here. We need to go back to the future, bro. I'm trying to tell you, Rodney, you are
Yes, sir.
absolutely right. Bobby, all the things that are being said, we don't get paid for this. We are some of the three of the business probably guys in Metro Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? But we make time to do this. This is a plea. We're not trying to get famous. We're not trying to get
Right.
no position.
No,
We're
sir.
not trying to
Right.
do anything but educate. And
That's
I'm
right.
telling you, man,
There you go.
Rodney, we
That's right.
really, guys, Bobby, you can finish out. Yeah, I'm going to get tongue twisted in a minute.
No, I mean, you know, Rodney touched on something. Well, you just touched on something about citizenship, and you know, I brought this up before on one of my shows.
Yes, you did.
You know, bringing up the fact that okay, you have someone in office right now that wants to give you a different definition of who is literally a citizen in this country and who isn't, but yet his background from his mother, she was not born here.
Cook, baby.
She was not born here. So his father was, but his mother was not. So which means, are you a citizen? Are your children a citizen? You've married two women who were not from here. Okay. So again, it's baffling to me, the things that he says and does, and people just don't call him out on it enough, or there's not enough reporting about it. All that kind of stuff just baffles me. But, you know, it's, man, it's so much going on. And I know, I don't know if anybody was going to bring this up, but the topic about the gentleman that's in El Salvador, you know,
that was my last.
that was your last. Okay. I won't take it from you. So I'll pitch it
Do
back
we
to
have
you, right?
time? Do we have time?
Yeah,
Do we have time?
right. Go ahead on, because I know you had a couple. You want to fit them all in.
That
That's
was it.
cool.
Yeah.
But you're moving
was it.
good. Yes, sir.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, because you brought it up earlier. Homegrown, at the very top. Homegrown. Due process, laws, procedures. When you violate what's on the books and you're in charge, we got a problem, Houston. There's a process in this country. If you're going to be deported, you have due process. You have the opportunity to defend yourself,
Sure.
get representation, and appeal any decision, or at least get the facts laid out to get a determination from a judicial branch, yes or no, I should go. That's been turned upside down. And our tax dollars are being used to pay for a foreign prison to house folks who were on our turf. Now, if you're here illegally, or if you validly should be removed out of this country, you have due process. That's what a civilized nation does. They adhere to the law. That's no longer the case, ladies and gentlemen. It's no longer the case. What I heard this week about the gentleman that's sitting in El Salvador, who's got two or three kids and a wife here. Hispanic congressman is getting ready to travel to El Salvador to request his release in his custody, since it's difficult for our current administration to facilitate a way to bring him back. There's been a challenge in court whereby the court is now requesting a description of what they've done to try to bring this gentleman back. If you saw the press conference on Tuesday, not the press conference, the White House visit by the El Salvadorian president and the individuals, including the Attorney General, particularly the Attorney General, that spoke about why they can't bring him back, or it's an international issue and The president of El Salvador doesn't know how he can get this guy out of his country to get him back where he belongs. It's a scary thought, because that means that anyone who disagrees, whether you have a green card, you're here illegally, or you are born here as a citizen, you're subject to be removed from this country and sent somewhere that your tax dollars are going to be used to pay to keep you, or whoever. So this whole issue with the hot mic on Tuesday was an eye-opener, because the conversation went, well, we got some homegrown criminals we need to deport. And do you have enough room, or do you need to build more prisons? To the Salvadorian president from our president. And everybody laughed. But it's not a joke. We said earlier, a constitutional crisis means that someone feels they're above the law, or people feel they're above the law, administration feels they're above the law, and don't have to follow it, and can write laws through executive orders to change whatever they want. This is serious, ladies and gentlemen. This is very serious. People need to wake up.
And Rodney,
I think
woke
was being wrong.
I think I read today or yesterday, I believe, that he actually told that president to build or get ready to build 5.
Yeah, build more prisons.
Okay,
yeah.
I don't know if I had missed it or not,
Yeah,
because I know you said he
said, oh, we got enough room.
Build more prisons. And so,
and I go back to our tax dollars. Paying for this. Okay. Now, if somebody doesn't need to be here, if you declared for valid reasons, go through the due process and do it properly. So there's no question about it. But I fear for my people, because a vehicle could drive up with unmarked tags. People could jump out with no ID, mask over their face, and sweep you in and never see you again, simply because you disagree with a policy. When did the loyal opposition in our Caribbean countries, they call them the loyal opposition, the party out of power, when did they become enemies? How can you be an enemy and you're a citizen in the same country, participating in the political process as a citizen? But you have a right. How are you an enemy? Yes, you're my opponent. You're a member of the other party, the ruling party right now, but we don't agree with all the policies. That doesn't make me your enemy. We're Americans. Or at least I thought we were. Well, maybe we're not any longer. Maybe the 3/5 clause is back. That's the way I feel. I feel like the 3/5 clause is back in the Constitution, that black people are no longer considered human. 3/5 of a human being. That's the way I feel right now, being black in this country.
And Rodney, I'm going to go back to, I believe, like what Bobby said earlier. Man, all this stuff is tests. Everything, when we go back, okay, and like I said, they like this guy. I'm not saying it was a test to originally to put him out of the country. They just rounding up folks and just doing what they're doing.
It was an accident.
Right. It was an accident. But then when they realize, when it's like, okay, it's a mistake. Well, not only are we not going to admit to the mistake, then we're going to do everything we can to keep him imprisoned, and then and so it's like, well, what is they're looking for the reaction. You see what I'm saying? It's all testing. They're looking for the reaction.
Yes.
And guess what? This will not be a story in 4 business days from now. And that's what they know. And so it's going to be something else.
Yep.
And all the way going back to the Haitians eating dogs, even though it was a lie, they want to see how white America will react to Haitian. They are trying to test to see, have we dehumanized? Have we dehumanized black people in America enough to where the country, to where white people in the country, who's the majority of people now, they quickly losing that.
Yes, sir.
They're still the individual minority anyway, as far as a race made up construct, but we know about that. But, they are trying to put feelers to say, okay, let's see how, because remember when I say it right, first they want to defund. They want to criminalize or criminalize, and then they want to either defund them or get rid of them or whatever, right? So that's just what they do with policy, and just like they do with laws. or just like they do with institutions, they do the same thing with
Yes, sir.
people. Because black people have
Yes, sir.
always been looked at as an institution in this country, not as a people. So if it'll work on in
Right.
this institution, it'll work on
Commodity.
a commodity. So it'll work on black people as well. So when you say, okay, yeah, let's make up this thing about these Haitians eating dogs, these people that came and rebuilt an entire community, and you saw how many people in that same community know that community, what was it, Ohio somewhere,
It was in Springfield, Ohio.
Springfield, Ohio, failing big time. They recruited those Haitians to come up there.
Yes.
They rebuilt everything, got everything, and you see how quickly, I'm not saying all the people, but you see how quickly they turned on them, because what they're testing is, have it been bought that these are people are less than human. Look, we all
Yes, sir.
love life. I know both you gentlemen,
Yes,
we
sir.
love life. But let me tell you something.
Yes,
When
sir.
you see, a dead squirrel, in the street or whatever, you tend to be like, oh, that's sad, but you keep moving, right? It's not human.
Yes, sir.
So, when we look at history and we look at people dehumanizing people, whether it was Hitler dehumanizing, the Jews, and you just walk over them. You're just like, oh, okay, they're a Jew, just like a squirrel in the street. And so these are all tests, like Bobby said. You know what I'm saying? They are, Rodney, Bobby, they are simply tests. They are trying to see. There's no outrage about that guy, really. You know what I'm saying? But there is, but there ain't. There's some quick outrage. But again, it's not me. So he was here legally, right? But
Yes,
it's
sir.
like, well, I don't have a green card. I'm a citizen. I'm born. I'm a natural born citizen. Okay.
And he was under temporary protected status too.
Yes. TPI.
So-
Correct.
Or TPS,
Yes.
I mean.
Yes.
He was under TPS. Yes,
Correct.
he was.
And
So-
the country they sent him to was the one he needed to stay out of.
Right. As an
You know?
asylum, he came here, for asylum.
Said this guy's got tattoos.
So-
Man, who else got a lot of tattoos?
So with that,
know?
Everybody got that. If you look at
Exactly.
the NBA games, everybody got a damn tattoo. It boils down to the key words that Brother Butler said earlier. Homegrown deportees.
Grown.
I've been saying that for the longest. And here's one other point too, with all this nonsense and how this country is being run. What I try to get people to understand and realize is he's creating more terror cells to come do something to us.
Yes.
That's what people don't realize. That is the consequence of his actions. You create more and more people to hate us, to want to try something against us. And this is why I keep saying it's affecting all of us with the stuff that he's doing. Everybody,
That's Governor Shapiro.
Yes. He won't accept any responsibility for it. He doesn't care. But that is what he's doing. But until, again, that's what's happening overseas. I guarantee you. Rodney, I used to always, when I was younger, I used to always feel like, well, we're the United States. We're the fighting force. We're the ones supposed to be protecting y'all. We're the ones supposed to come in when some other country wants to try to beat you up. We're supposed to be the,
That's right.
the ones protecting y'all, the world police, so to speak. I used to wonder why so many countries, didn't like us, calling us the great Satan and all that kind of stuff. And then these are the things, this is why. The things that these type of actions that this administration is taking, it's doing nothing but creating us more enemies overseas. I promise you. I don't want that. I don't want to see anything happening, but I'm just telling you,
It is.
this is what happens.
Bought off into that American exceptionalism, but not in the exceptionalism, the good way, the way that they say American exceptionalism, bought off into that. But those of us who have traveled the world, those of us who've been in the military, especially, we know that throughout this world, we are not a liked country at all. Go ahead, Rodney.
I was going to say that you talked about April 5th, and this ties into everything we've been saying.
Oh, yeah, that's my last category.
Yeah.
Or topic, rather.
Okay, good.
But go ahead. You can.
Good.
I'll segue right into it.
I'm segue into it. Yes. We're going to have to depend upon, this country's going to have to depend upon the very people who have benefited the most from affirmative action in the DEI to step up and lead this fight. Organize, not just demonstrate. Vote the people in that need to be in those seats that do not go along with this philosophy. It's time for white folks who want to save this country. They're going to have to stand up and stand out. We've done, as a race of people, if you want to call us a race of people, we have done our part time and time again to save this country, from military service to the civil rights movement that everyone has benefited from but us. So it is time now. If you want to save this country, my friends from the other side, y'all gonna have to step up and step out, because we can't save you. We don't have the numbers to save you.
Right.
We're not in a position to save you anymore. This is on you. Y'all gonna have to step up.
Yes, sir. And all right, that's a segue me right into, my second, and it'll be, everybody's got their 2 in. I thought I wasn't gonna be able to, we still, I think we're still in the 2 hours. I wasn't sure if I was going to get this last topic in, but you know what? It segues right into it, which is what happened on April the 5th.
Yes, sir.
So I wanted for this to be, my second topic and the last topic, simply because I want to thank our community. I want to thank our community. I know that some people, don't agree. I don't really care. That's not what this platform is about. We don't care about numbers. We would love to. We'd love to increase in numbers. We love, because that means more people are hearing from a black man's perspective of what we who is becoming one of the most marginalized group of people in this country, which are black men. And so, but however, that's not what we do this for. Okay, and I just want to thank the organization that Black America did. And like I teased in the beginning of this, we didn't have to have a meeting. We just knew what to do instinctively. Epigenetically, we knew what to do. Instinctively, we knew what to do. And we understood the assignment and we followed it. Simple as that. And we don't care right now about a roller coaster ride up to outer space that these 6 women or whatever were on. We don't care about that. We don't care. That's just a distraction. You see what I'm saying? And, the thing is made the way that it's made and look the way that it look. I'm talking about the spaceship that these women went up in as, almost like a male body part, right? I think it's by design. So you keep on fooling with that kind of stuff. Because like I said, we've been here since somewhere around 1619, as far as, the history, that the history books talk about. But of course, we understand that we were here before Christopher Columbus, so-called made-up guy, or Amerigo's Vespucci, and what was even thought about. Okay, so but I want to say this, gentlemen, is that I do look. For the people that think that we should have done something differently, I respect that, and I got it. I understand. But let me tell you something. When we lead, every major movement in this country that has happened has come because of people who look like us. Even you could try to hijack the women's suffrage movement all you want, but
right.
we know what women really started that. Okay,
that's right.
So I don't care. We know the history. You whitewash each other, because you're not going to get us. Like Rodney said, we may not have the numbers, but we have the gumption. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
ask Haiti. Ask Haiti.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Ask them.
Yes, sir.
And then go to France and say, what about that right there? You understand what I'm saying? See, sometimes the might is bigger than the sword. You know what I'm saying? And so I just want to say thank you for that. And I'll say this right here. I had a gentleman to call me. And if he's listening, you know who you are. And I think you do listen to this based on some of the stuff you tell me. He's an older white gentleman, and he is a retired college tenured professor at a major, institution. And he called me and he said, hey, I just want to get your perspective on, April the 5th and the black people, and where were they? How did they? I mean, I this stuff on social media, they kind of, black people were, I guess they was listening to this stuff on social media and it caught wind on social media, and black people didn't show up, didn't show out. And I listened to him. He said some other stuff, but I listened to him for, I don't know, for about it seems like 7 minutes, probably been 5 minutes or whatever. Just listen to him talk about the reason as to why black people didn't show up. And to summarize it, but mostly from what he was saying, I could make the assumption or the conclusion that he believed that it was because of social media and all this kind of stuff, right? So I told him, I said, I listened to him, didn't interrupt him once, because I know I'm not going to stand to be interrupted. You know, I respect the elderly, but hey, you got, y'all know me. And so, but anyway, I said, you see, that was your first mistake right there. Your first mistake is to call a black man, a black person who you know is in the know, who's woke and who understand my community, for you to start using your privilege to tell me why we stayed home. I said, so you went off on this rant about that you literally minimized us. You minimized our very apparent absence. You minimized that to the internet. I said, I can do the same thing and say that these people who vote for Trump, these MAGA people, are simply doing it because of the internet. And he paused and he realized. And anyway, to make a long story short, I broke down and had this elderly gentleman, because I think I say elderly because I do believe he's over 75, who taught in the ivory towers of, the white institutions of America. And I made him realize, I don't know if I made him or not, but I broke down to him that, look, this is not new to us. You understand? It's not new to us. We know exactly what to do. We didn't have to have a meeting, my brother. We didn't have to have a meeting. We knew what was happening. We knew what was going on. You could keep on minimizing. You could keep on coming up with your assumptions and conclusions, because you guys think, because these institutions, or a lot of them are based on studying us, you can think you know us all you want. And what I'm telling you, you are absolutely wrong about why we didn't show up, that it was because of viral things on the internet. I said, I don't know a person who, just about everybody I know stayed home. And listen, and none of them could ever be influenced by a viral video or anything viral. I said, you keep on thinking that. And I said, this person is a Democrat, a blue blood Democrat. I said, this is what's wrong with the Democratic Party. Write what you just did. Write what you just said. And guess what? The Democratic Party is a huge reason as to why we are where we at today, because of many of the people who look like you, who are Democrats, and you have that kind of thought process. All you had, but I told them at the end, y'all, that look, I can tell by the time I ended that conversation with him that, yeah, you effed around and found out today. But here's the thing. I still told him I appreciate, though, that you you had the gumption, you had the wherewithal to call me.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And every time this guy has only called me maybe 3 times I remember since I've known him. And every single time has been in this kind of situation where he wants to know what the black people are thinking. And he generally starts out telling me what the black people are thinking. But this time I'm like, you know what? A lot of times I just I say, okay, he's just older, and you just kind of be like, whatever, because, anyway. So, but I'm like, no. There's no time for playing. There's no time for playing. But I do appreciate you. You know who you are. I believe you watch this. And so keep doing what you're doing. Call somebody. You could have called any one of the other gentlemen that's on this podcast tonight and you would have got a similar or probably even better answer, had you done that. So keep doing it. I appreciate it. You had the courage. We didn't get upset. And so I just appreciate that. But listen, guys, and I'll let you guys opine on this whole thing with this stay at home. And if you want to, if you don't want to, that's fine. And then we want to close it out with your final thoughts. But yes, go ahead, guys.
Go ahead, Bob.
Well, it's interesting what you just said about that response as to why we didn't show up. But I think we've done enough. We've done enough marching and enough leading, even up to prior to the election. And you didn't listen. Okay. We tried to tell you, we tried to warn you about what was coming. You didn't listen. So for us not to be there was it was a signal to you all to say, once again, you ain't listening. All right. So all of this that we've done, all of the heavy towing that we've done up till now, hey, y'all got it. You got it this time.
And Bobby, you know what else I asked him? I also asked him the conversation. I just don't want to bore people with the entire conversation, but I also asked him. I said, sir, without saying his name, is that I don't watch mainstream media as, like I used to or whatever. But I said, I have not. Have you heard of any situation where the cops, all the people's out in the street, man, they were out there.
Yeah.
Did anybody hear of any? I said, did you hear of any situation where there was the police beating somebody across the head or whatever?
Right.
Look, bro, we know they're trying to lure us out in them streets because guess what? If you read Project 2025 is what I told them. Guess what? Guess what's also in Project 2025 out of them 900 pages that's kind of at the very front of it is martial law. And I said, guess what? You think we stupid enough to be the culprits of that? But I didn't hear. And if you guys heard something, you can feel free to say it. But I did not. Of course, I don't follow mainstream media like that or whatever. But I did not really hear of any incidences. If there were, they had to be very, very small of police beating anybody out in the streets because there was sure absence. There was a noticeable absence of us. And I believe once you get 10 of us in some small, group out there over that weekend of April 5th, we might have heard something different. But Rodney, go ahead, sir.
Well, I noticed there were no white-faced black men coming down with masks on, throwing Molotov cocktails through department store windows to blame it on white folks.
I was gonna say that, Rodney.
Do what you just said.
Yeah,
but that's why we are. That's why we are together, bro. I feel you.
Yes,
I feel you.
Yes.
That's why they didn't call martial law. Cause we missed our cue. But they wouldn't have come down there and done anything to them folks. Okay, you see how many black folks who are being arrested for crimes with no weapons are in graves. But yet, the man that bombed the governor's home, they picked him up. He's alive. So, there's two systems of justice. Just us, or the injustice victims. So, what we have to do, gentlemen, on this point, is follow our ancestors and the lessons that they taught us. And we have to look out for ourselves and be cognizant of what we are living through right now. This fight is their fight. We have our own fight. Our fight is survival through what we're going through right now.
That's right.
And your point is exactly right, Rodney. You hit the nail on the head, bro. You hit the nail on the head. I'm so glad you brought this to the show because it's been bugging me in my mind. Why are they upset that we didn't show up? I'm reading the article. What are you talking about? Bro, nobody called me. I saw no Facebook posts, no Instagram posts, no YouTube posts that would advise me to stay home that I was not already going to do.
I have never seen a people who is so-called
it wasn't on my mind at all to
make up 13% of the population, whatever. That we are so doggone important. Like, why are y'all out there? Where are the black people? Where are the blacks?
Right.
It's like, man, chill out. You know what I'm saying? You just have to have us. But you know what though, Rodney? All of that allowing them people, allowing the getting away with. You think you're getting away with stuff, right? You know, oh, but we're not arresting the white people. We're not doing this. We're not. But guess what? Like a boomerang, brother. Like a boomerang is coming back and is hitting you square in your face. And guess what? You want for us to get out there and take some of the impact that you're feeling, that you're getting. But I'm going to tell you this right here. I have one thing to say about it. Let them eat cake.
Mm.
Let them eat cake.
Eat cake. I got you, bro.
That's good.
That's for the history buffs. So you
Right.
don't go Google it and
Right.
find out what he's talking
Google
about.
it. Google it. Let them eat cake. Let them eat cake. And we're gonna sip some tea. We're gonna sip some tea while you gonna let y'all eat cake. But Bobby, we'll start with you, brother. Final thoughts, man. Final thoughts.
Wrap it up.
We are at we've already been at a constitutional crisis in this country. Rodney, you nailed it when we were talking about April 5th. I was thinking the same thing. You had nobody not bombing, but necessarily setting fires where they could say, see what happens. It only happens when we go out and march and protest. It fits the narrative of martial law, knowing that we would be basically the test tubes. We're going to feel the brunt force of it before anybody else does. So it's just those things. And I'm going to close out with one thing that, Rodney, you've heard me say, talk about numerous times. I wonder where where are those of us that were so adamant about reparations. You don't hear them talking. You don't hear them trying to negotiate. They only do it when the blue party is in power. And also, just to make note that we still have a crisis going on in Haiti, the Sudan, and the Congo. I want to keep that information pumping and in our face, to in our consciousness, really. When we talk about these issues and all we've discussed today is extremely important. I just want to keep that in mind about what's happening in those three countries. And if you don't know, read up on it. Google search it. Okay. We've got a whole civil war going on in all three of those countries, a humanitarian crisis going on in all of them. So I just want to constantly keep that thought in people's minds as we go forward. But again, I'm always appreciative to be out here on the Black Man's Roundtable to discuss these topics. They're flooding the zone with so many things. I mean, we could have gone on for much longer, but just to keep things moving, I just want to say again, God bless everyone. And I'm just seeing so many different tragedies. I won't mention the brother's name, but a brother of ours lost his daughter to a car accident. And I just, this year has just been so many different challenges with people leaving us, and especially with young people. So I just want to put that out there as my closing comment.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, my brother. You have our prayers.
Yes, sir.
We need truth, reconciliation, and repair. If this country is going to last as a democracy, we need to deal with the issue of reparations, period. And that's the only way to do it. This country will not survive if we're not part of that discussion. And the majority in this country understands that we are part of this country, a very important part of this country. And to move forward as a united nation, as a United States of America, we need to have truth, reconciliation, and repair for child slavery. And on a brighter note, I'd like to leave the audience with this knowledge. Last month, I was invited to a Commission District 6 State of the District speech by the Vice Chair of the Fulton County Board of Commissioners, Khadijah Abdul Rahman. She had appointed me to the Fulton County, one of her two appointees to the Fulton County Reparations Task Force. So I represent her on the task force. Well, she invited me to this luncheon, and, I'm always up for a free brunch, and it was late. And so I said, well, where am I sitting? And then the lady at the table said, oh, table number 1. So I go sit table number 1. Before I know it, her daughter comes and sits next to me, and I look around, and Commissioner comes and sits next to me, and the program gets started. She's up on the stage talking. She's giving her address, and then she steps down from the stage, and the moderator says, "Rodney James Littles, please come to the podium." I'm like, whoa, what did I do? Yeah, I hope I didn't cross this sister. You know what I mean? I get up on the stage, and she's smiling and laughing, and someone from the AmeriCorps district office, can't remember the young lady's name, very nice young lady, read a citation. They presented to me the Lifetime Achievement Award from President Joseph Biden.
Wow.
And I was flabbergasted. I couldn't believe it. I had no idea what was happening. And the commissioner had recommended me to AmeriCorps, and the staff looked over my background and submitted it, and it was approved before he left office, but it was finally came down to the organization to present. So I am honored to have received. When they said the Lifetime Achievement Award from the President of the United States, I'm like, uh-oh, I didn't vote for him. Oh, Lord, boy, my reputation is going to be dirt in the street. It was from President Joseph Biden. So I wanted to let you guys know that I was honored to receive that award. And it made some of the sacrifices of my time, of my family, lending me to the community to try to serve. And I think that it's important that we see ourselves as Americans, regardless of what color we may be, number one. And we need to, by all means, make a difference between right and wrong. Not blue, not red, not Republican, not Democrat, but policies that are right and policies that are wrong, regardless of who it affects.
Congratulations, Rodney. Much respect, brother.
Congratulations.
Yes, sir.
It is well deserved and well earned. The work that you have done over the years, not only in your community, but under that gold dome, man, it does not go unseen. People know who you are. People know what you're doing. And Rodney, you are doing angels work. You have done angels work over the years, under that gold dome, man. So look, you deserve it. I just want to, I guess, end this with something that you and Bobby kind of hit on. And that is, I first want to say, before I get into how I want to sum up my situation, is that, look, the blue and the red jerseys, people, it is, I'm not telling you how to vote, what to do. That's up to you. Okay. As black people in this country, we've never cared about, the color of the jersey. Okay. Y'all have heard me say, I think that African Americans are the most savvy voters in the world, in the absolute world. Chattel slavery we've been through. We've always had to vote. When we had an opportunity, we had to vote for our lives. And then when they gave us an opportunity, when they gave black men the opportunity to vote, the very first opportunity they had to vote, they showed up something like over 80%.
Yep.
You understand what I'm saying? We wasn't playing. But what we have done is we've played a little bit over the last 60 years. We thought that we have overcome. We got to remember that Dr. King said that he questioned, did he make a mistake by sending his people into a burning building when he talked about, assimilation? There's a, he wanted desegregation, but he didn't necessarily want, the assimilation the way that we did it. When we look at other cultures in this country, there's a Chinatown everywhere you go.
Yeah.
There's, you got the Mexicans, you got the, it's just us. No one else feel a need to assimilate the way that we did. But of course, no one else went through chattel slavery like we did. So I understand why. I'm not blaming us. We went through something that's different from any place else in the world, but it also made us a very unique kind of people. And, and you know what? And that's why we influence the world to this day. We are made to believe that we are marginalized inside of this country or whatever. But like the three of us on this podcast know, that when you go outside of this country, people look at us a little bit different, and it's not in a marginalized way.
Right.
They look at us with respect. Now, have the powers to be, the billionaires that own the media companies, the mediums in this country, the television stations and everything else, have they done everything they could to promote propaganda about black people in America, to make them, to make the world dehumanize them? So if they ever try to eradicate us, people in from whether it's Botswana to Italy is saying, well, okay, well, that's some black people, they finally getting rid of them over there. So we have to understand that this is propaganda. We have to understand what's happening. But what I want to do, gentlemen, with this moment that I have, is to just appreciate you two guys, man. We've done this a couple of times. We've done this about 2 times now. Like I said, where it's just the 3 of us and we just go for broke. And I just want the audience to understand how much I appreciate that, that, like Bobby said, Bobby told you that, hey, look, he's going to talk about those things that nobody else is talking about, right? I wish I can put a famous person on each one of us and say, what we mean to this show, but I just can't think of the people off the top of my head. But Bobby is that dude that's going to talk about what's going on in Haiti. He's going to talk about, the things that's happening in our global, which we are the global majority of people on this planet. He's going to talk about those things that the mainstream media won't talk about. He's going to bring them to you, okay? And Rodney is going to bring you what is really happening legislatively, how it affects us, how at the end of the day, how it affects our table, our kitchen table. Our kitchen table is a little bit different from the rest of America's, kitchen table.
Right.
We have those, those green chairs with the bottom is hard, the back is hard. They made out, they heavy as I don't know what, they rust. So, and that iron, I don't know what it is, metal table, that's our kitchen table is a little bit different. And Rodney know how to bring what's happening legislatively, local and national, into how that affects us. Okay. And I appreciate the things that these gentlemen are able to bring, to the Black Man's Roundtable. I don't even really know what I do, but I do something. And what I try to do, is just put it where the goats can get it. Yeah. I think that's what I try to do. I try to just put it where the goats can get it. You know what I'm saying? And if we know a goat is and I'm not saying none of us are stupid, but if you can put it where a goat can get it, then that means anybody can get it, right? And so that's what I try to just bring the perspective of what these guys bring, and just try to, just keep in mind that everybody, out there don't quite understand. You guys know I've talked about that they knew, some 30, 35 years ago, the 2 things they need to take out of the schools is civics and economics, right? Yeah. My generation, was one of the last generations to get it to where it wasn't, it wasn't a what do you call it? An elective. I had to take civics. I had to take, economics, and remember my teachers,
economics.
Yes, I remember them.
Me too.
And even home economics, but yes. And so I just want to say that I appreciate our perspectives. I appreciate what we do on this platform and how we're able to bring it. I appreciate the diversity in what we, our belief system. But one thing we have in common, the thread that put all 3 of us together, for those out there who are listening, is that we are proud and we are unapologetically Black. Because believe me, it takes something to come out these days and be on this kind of platform. Okay. It is, we are putting ourselves out there, and we don't mind doing it for you. And that's what you have to understand. Right. We understand that many of you are afraid to, and by good reason, to comment on some of the things that we say on the social mediums. We got it. We got that you might be afraid to even follow this platform. But look, that's okay. We got you. We got you.
We got you.
I'm sure they looking at us, but we okay. We all right. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. Yeah. So with that, gentlemen, I appreciate you guys, and thank you for every single thing that you guys did tonight. And with that, I'm going to let you know when you can hear these guys' perspectives, their individual perspectives on their individual platforms that we do. And for the very first week of each month, all episodes drop on Thursdays. So the very first Thursday of the month, you can look to see the local lookout with Rodney and Bobby. Again, 7 p.m. the first Thursday of each month. And then the second Thursday of each month, you can look to see the roundup with Rodney and Rodney, the second Thursday of the month. And then the third Thursday of the month, you can look to see the roundtable with myself and either a host of a roundtable of guests, or maybe it's one individual or whatever. You can look for that. And we got something in the works for the fourth Thursday of the month. We used to do the roundtable twice a month, but we are kind of going to phase into doing something that we know that you guys are like. It'll come over time. But look, these are not easy to put together. These guys would tell you there's a lot of research, there's a lot of work to be done. And look, doing them every single week is a task for us to bring you one every single week. And now we're going to kind of take that break the last week of the month, let ourselves recuperate. And so, but that first, that second, and that third Thursday of each month, you can look, for an episode. And I promise you, we will continue to do these kind of specials, and maybe one day they won't be specials. So I'm gonna just leave it like that. That's how Donald Trump does it, right? He be like, well,
we'll see.
He let him do some teasers.
We'll
so maybe that's a little teaser. But anyway, gentlemen, thank you all. And until next time.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, right, buddy. We appreciate it. And until next time, we'll see y'all in them streets and them sweets. Peace.
Appreciate you, brothers. Thank y'all.
Yes, sir.
Ditto.
Don't forget to check us out on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Do you have show ideas or want to be on the show? Shoot us an email at blackmansroundtable@gmail.com. And please follow us on Facebook.
1